It was a chilly evening in downtown Los Angeles, and Elon Musk, the tech billionaire known for his ambitious dreams and groundbreaking ventures, found himself in an unexpected part of the city. After an intense meeting that stretched late into the night, Elon decided to take a detour from his usual route home. The streets were dimly lit, with flickering neon signs casting a surreal glow over the quiet sidewalks. His electric car glided smoothly through the streets, a stark contrast to the weathered buildings around him. ASC turned onto a narrower road. Something caught his eye, a faint blue light emanating from the sidewalk. At first, he thought it was a discarded device, but as he slowed down, the figure of a young girl came into focus. She couldn't have been older than 15, her frail frame bundled in layers of mismatched clothing to fend off the cold. She sat cross-legged on the ground, a battered laptop balanced precariously on her knees. Elon squinted, his curiosity piqued. The girl's fingers danced furiously over the keyboard, her brows furrowed in intense concentration. The screen of the laptop flickered occasionally, clearly struggling to stay functional. Around her lay remnants of her makeshift shelter, an old backpack, a thin blanket, and a few crumpled food wrappers. Yet, despite her surroundings, her focus was unshakable. For a moment, Elon sat in silence, watching. The juxtaposition was striking a child so consumed by the world inside her laptop, oblivious to the harsh reality around her. What could she possibly be doing? Writing? Playing games? The thought lingered in his mind until he noticed something that made his heart skip a string of code was visible on the dim screen. The sight stirred something deep within him. Memories of his own childhood, his first computer, the sleepless nights spent tinkering with software flooded his mind. He knew that kind of focus, that kind of determination. Elon couldn't drive away. He had to know more. He pulled his car to the curb and stepped out, the door closing with a soft thud. The girl didn't notice. Her world was contained within that broken screen, and nothing else seemed to matter. Taking a few cautious steps toward her, Elon cleared his throat. "Hey there," he said, his voice soft, yet carrying the weight of curiosity. The girl froze, her hands hovering over the keyboard. Slowly, she turned her head, her wide eyes meeting his. In them, Elon saw a mix of fear and defiance, as if she were bracing herself for judgment or trouble. "I couldn't help but notice," he continued, gesturing to the laptop. "What are you working on?" The girl hesitated, her gaze darting between him and the car parked a few feet away. For a moment, there was only silence, broken by the faint hum of the city. And just like that, the stage was set for a story that neither of them could have anticipated. What is the girl's story? And what could she possibly be coding on that broken laptop? The girl's hesitant gaze lingered on Elon for a moment before she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm working on something," she said, clutching the laptop protectively. Elon crouched to her level, maintaining a respectful distance to avoid intimidating her. "I'm not here to bother you," he said gently. "I just saw you working so intently. It reminded me of myself when I was younger." Her grip on the laptop eased slightly. "Why would someone like you care about what I'm doing?" she asked, her tone a mix of suspicion and curiosity. Elon chuckled softly. "Let's just say I've been in your shoes, maybe not exactly, but close enough." "What's your name?" "Emma," she replied, her voice growing steadier. "Nice to meet you, Emma. I'm Elon." Her eyes widened slightly. "Elon Musk?" she asked, the recognition evident in her tone. He nodded with a smile. "That's me. Now, tell me, what are you working on that's got you so focused out here in the cold?" Emma hesitated, then glanced at her screen. "I'm teaching myself how to code. I'm trying to build an app, something that can actually help people like me." Elon raised an eyebrow. "That's Impressive. Self-taught, huh? How are you managing that? I use free Wi-Fi from the cafe down the street, Emma explained, gesturing vaguely toward a brightly lit building in the distance. And there are websites that teach coding for free. It's hard with this laptop. It crashes a lot, but I make do. Her words carried an air of resilience that struck Elon. What kind of app are you building? He asked, his curiosity piqued. Emma's eyes lit up for the first time since the conversation began. It's an app for people who are homeless or struggling. It connects them to resources shelters, food banks, job listings, based on where they are. A lot of people don't know where to start, and I want to make it easier. Elon leaned back, visibly impressed. That's a brilliant idea. And you've been doing this all on your own? Emma nodded. I've been working on it for months. I'm not great at it yet, but I'm learning. She paused, her expression faltering. Sometimes I wonder if it's even worth it. Who's gonna care about something I make? Elon's gaze softened. I care, he said simply. The fact that you're here, working on this with so little, shows you've got more drive than most people I've met. For a moment, Emma seemed taken aback, her guard lowering. I've always wanted to make a difference, she admitted. Coding is the only way I can see myself doing that. Elon nodded, his mind racing. Do you mind showing me what you've built so far? Emma hesitated again, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. It's not finished, she warned. And it's probably not that good. I don't need perfect, Elon replied. I just want to see your passion in action. With a deep breath, Emma turned the screen toward him. Lines of code filled the display, and though the laptop flickered occasionally, her work was clear. The chapter ended with Elon staring at the screen, a mix of surprise and admiration in his eyes. What will Elon think of Emma's work, and what will he do next? Emma adjusted the screen so Elon could get a better view. This is the prototype, she said, her voice steady but laced with nervousness. It's still rough, and some parts don't work yet. Elon leaned in, studying the display. Despite the occasional flicker from the laptop's worn-out screen, the app's interface was surprisingly clean and intuitive. It featured a simple layout, with options like find shelter, access food, and job listings. Clicking on one revealed additional subcategories, with detailed information and directions to nearby resources. He tapped a key cautiously, bringing up a list of shelters. Each entry was accompanied by distance, available beds, and contact information. The data wasn't perfect, but the logic behind it was solid. Elon raised an eyebrow in surprise. This is impressive, he said, genuine. You built all this yourself? Emma nodded. I started with tutorials online, and then I just kept experimenting. It's not as good as I want it to be, but it works mostly. Elon asked, smiling slightly. Sometimes the code breaks, she admitted, brushing a strand of hair from her face. And this laptop. Well, it's not exactly reliable. She tapped the screen, which flickered again, as if to illustrate her point. Elon's expression grew serious. How do you manage? Working on something this complex with a tool that barely functions? I don't have a choice, Emma replied with a shrug. The laptop was a donation from a shelter. It crashes a lot, and I have to restart it every hour. But I've learned to save my work constantly. As for everything else, she gestured to her surroundings. I just figure it out. I've been on my own for a while now. You learn to survive. Her words carried a weight that hit Elon deeply. He looked back at the app, then at the girl sitting before him, surrounded by a world that seemed determined to hold her back. The determination in her eyes reminded him of his own struggles, in the early days of his career. "This is more than just surviving," Elon said finally. "What you're doing here is innovative, even with all the challenges you're facing. Most people wouldn't even try." Emma's lips curved into a faint smile, the first genuine one he'd seen. "I just want to make a difference," she said softly. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The hum of the city provided a quiet backdrop as Elon considered his next words. Finally, he looked at Emma with a thoughtful expression. "You've got something special here," he said. "But this laptop isn't going to get you much further." Emma glanced at her laptop, as if seeing it for the first time in all its inadequacy. "I know," she said, "but it's all I have." Elon's gaze didn't waver. "Let me help you," he said firmly. Emma's eyes widened, and her defensive walls seemed to go back up. "Why would you do that? You don't even know me." "Because I see potential," he replied. "And because I believe in helping people who are working to make a difference. You've done so much with so little. Imagine what you could do with the right resources." "What kind of help?" she asked cautiously, still unsure. Elon smiled mysteriously. "Let's just say I have a few ideas. But first, I need to make some calls." What does Elon have in mind, and how far will he go to help Emma achieve her dreams? The next morning, Emma stood outside a sleek glass building that towered above her. It was a stark contrast to the streets she was used to. The enormous Tesla logo at the entrance felt almost surreal, and her fingers tightened around the strap of her tattered backpack as she hesitated. Elon emerged from the lobby, his usual calm demeanor accompanied by a welcoming smile. "You made it," he said, gesturing for her to follow him. Emma nodded, her heart pounding as they walked through the pristine hallways filled with bustling employees. She tried to ignore the stares and murmurs, acutely aware of her worn-out clothes and the fraying strap on her bag. They entered a spacious conference room where a group of engineers was waiting, their laptops open and their eyes filled with curiosity. "This is Emma," Elon said, introducing her. "She's been working on something I think you all need to see." Emma froze, her palms clammy as all eyes turned to her. She felt out of place, like a lone weed in a field of pristine flowers. I don't think this is a good idea," she stammered, her voice barely audible. Elon placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Emma, you belong here as much as anyone else in this room. They're not here to judge you. They're here to learn from you." His words gave her a sliver of courage. Taking a deep breath, she pulled out her laptop and set it on the table. The screen flickered to life, and she navigated to her app. "This is the prototype I've been working on," she began, her voice still shaky. "It's meant to connect people in need with resources, nearby shelters, food banks, job listings. I've tried to make it as simple and accessible as possible." She clicked through the app, explaining each feature in detail. The engineers leaned in, their expressions shifting from polite curiosity to genuine interest. One of them raised a hand. "How are you sourcing the data for the listings?" he asked. "I scrape publicly available data from government websites and nonprofits," Emma explained. "It's not perfect, but it's a start." The room buzzed with murmurs of approval. Another engineer chimed in. "The UI is incredibly intuitive." "Did you design it yourself?" Emma nodded, her confidence growing. "I used open source tools and a lot of trial and error." As she continued, Elon watched her with quiet pride. Despite her nervousness, Emma's passion shone through, and it was clear the engineers were impressed. When she finished, the room erupted in applause. Emma blinked in disbelief, her cheeks flushing. It's not done yet," she said quickly, as if trying to downplay the moment. It doesn't have to be, Elon said. What you've created is already incredible. And the potential for this app is enormous. Emma looked at him, unsure of what to say. For so long, she had doubted herself, convinced that her work was insignificant. But now, in this room full of brilliant minds, she felt something she hadn't in years: validation. Still, a nagging doubt lingered. I don't know if I can do this, she admitted quietly. I mean, look at me. I don't belong here. Elon crouched to her level, meeting her eyes. Emma, do you know how many times I've felt the same way? Starting SpaceX, Tesla, it all seemed impossible at first. But the only difference between success and failure is persistence. You've already proven you have that. His words struck a chord, and for the first time, Emma allowed herself to believe she could succeed. Elon stood and addressed the room. I want all of you to think about how we can support Emma in taking this app to the next level. This isn't just a project, it's a chance to make a real impact. Turning back to Emma, he added with a grin, and I have something else in mind for you, but we'll get to that soon. What is Elon's extraordinary proposal, and how will it change Emma's life forever? A few weeks after her presentation, Emma found herself walking onto a prestigious university campus, her heart pounding with a mixture of disbelief and excitement. She was no longer carrying the weight of uncertainty on her shoulders. Instead, she held a brand new laptop state-of-the-art and gifted to her by Elon Musk himself. As part of the arrangement, Elon had covered her tuition and connected her with mentors who were leaders in coding, AI, and app development. More than that, he had personally taken an interest in her progress, scheduling regular check-ins to guide her through challenges and celebrate her milestones. For Emma, the transformation was overwhelming. She went from coding on a broken laptop in the harsh streets to sitting in classrooms filled with bright, eager minds. She still faced moments of self-doubt, but each time she remembered Elon's words: the only difference between success and failure is persistence. Her app, now renamed HopeHub, began to take shape with the help of Tesla engineers and her new academic mentors. What was once a humble prototype blossomed into a fully functional platform. Elon even arranged for a team to integrate real-time data feeds, making the app more reliable and impactful. Through a montage of scenes, Emma's journey unfolded, late nights in her dorm, typing away on her laptop with determination in her eyes. Presentations to teams of developers and social workers, showcasing how HopeHub could bridge gaps in resource accessibility. Moments of triumph as she watched the app launch on various platforms, garnering attention from media and nonprofits alike. As HopeHub gained traction, Emma received messages from people. It had helped a mother who found a shelter for her children, a young man who landed a job through the app's listings. Each story reaffirmed her purpose and drove her to continue improving the platform. One evening, Emma sat on the stage of a TED Talk, her nerves palpable, but her resolve stronger than ever. In the audience, Elon watched with a proud smile as Emma shared her journey. She spoke about the struggles of her past, the moments of doubt, and the unlikely encounter that had changed her life. None of this would have been possible without someone believing in me when I didn't believe in myself, she said, her voice trembling with emotion. Elon Musk gave me more than just tools and education, he gave me hope. And now, I want to pass that hope on to others. As the audience erupted in applause, Emma's eyes glistened with tears. She spotted Elon in the crowd, nodding in approval, and felt a swell of gratitude unlike anything she had ever experienced. Later that night, they stood outside the auditorium. "Thank you for everything," Emma said, her voice barely above a whisper. Elon shook his head. "You don't owe me anything, Emma. You earned this. All I did was help clear the path. But you didn't have to, she replied, her voice breaking. You could have walked away, but you didn't. That means more than I can say. He smiled. Sometimes all someone needs is a little push. Just promise me you'll do the same for someone else someday. Emma nodded, a tear rolling down her cheek. I will, she said, her voice filled with resolve. As the camera panned out, Emma looked up at the night sky, the stars twinkling above. No matter where you start, she said in a voiceover, your dreams are valid. And sometimes, when you least expect it, the universe or someone extraordinary will give you the chance to prove it. Never give up. The video ended with the words, perseverance and kindness can change lives one step at a time.